welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised. Journal entry, Day 1, 5:47 a.m. The emergency alert woke me before dawn. That harsh, grating tone designed to cut through sleep and silence. I fumbled for my phone, expecting another tsunami warning or earthquake advisory. Standard fare for Bay Area residents. The message on my screen made no sense. Emergency alert. The Golden Gate Bridge has disappeared. This is not a drill. Avoid all bridge access points. Follow local authorities' instructions. I almost laughed. Who hacks the emergency system with something so absurd? I silenced the alert and rolled over, but my phone immediately lit up with texts from colleagues at the city engineering department. Then came calls from the mayor's office. This wasn't a joke. I'm recording this journal to document what I witnessed firsthand. As the civil engineer who oversaw the Golden Gate's last major retrofit, I need a record that can't be altered or deleted. Because something is very wrong with San Francisco today. Something impossible. Journal entry, Day 1, 7:12 a.m. The fog was heavier than usual as I approached Vista Point, the usual spot where tourists snap photos of the Golden Gate Bridge. Emergency vehicles crowded the lookout, their lights creating eerie halos in the dense mist. Police barriers blocked access, but my city credentials got me through. Captain Reynolds from SFPD recognized me from the seismic committee. "Chan," he nodded grimly. "Glad they called you. Maybe you can make sense of this." When I reached the observation point, my mind simply couldn't process what I was seeing. The thick fog had parted just enough to reveal the water below and the opposite shore. But between them, nothing. No red towers soaring skyward.
No suspensión cables.
No road deck. Just empty air where one of the world's most iconic structures should have stood. I kept blinking, convinced my eyes were playing tricks. The Golden Gate Bridge couldn't just vanish. It's over 1.7 miles long, with towers rising 746 feet. Nearly 37,000 tons of steel. 80,000 miles of wire in the main cables alone. I know every specification by heart. When did this happen? I asked, my voice barely audible. First reports came in around 3:15 a.m. from a Coast Guard patrol, Reynolds said. They thought their instruments were malfunctioning when they detected no bridge structure. By dawn, we confirmed this. I stared at the absence that shouldn't be possible. Where's the debris? A structure that size can't disappear without displaced water? Wreckage. That's just it, Chin. Nothing. No debris field, no seismic activity, no sound. Ferry captains report the water's normal. It's like the bridge never existed, but it did exist. I touched its steel supports just last month during the inspection. Journal entry, Day 1, 10:23 a.m. The mayor assembled an emergency response team at City Hall. I recognized most faces: disaster management officials, USGS scientists, city planners. The Coast Guard's Lieutenant Commander James Walsh was there, looking as if he hadn't slept. The public's being told it's a structural collapse for now, the mayor explained. But we need answers fast. This isn't just a traffic issue. It's potentially a matter of national security. Walsh cleared his throat. My team has completed initial sonar mapping of the bay floor where the bridge foundations should be. There's nothing there. No rubble, no foundation remnants. The seafloor appears undisturbed, as if the foundations were never built. An impossible knot formed in my stomach. I've studied bridge collapses. They don't vanish without trace. They leave catastrophic evidence. What about the cameras? I asked. The bridge has surveillance running 24/7. The tech team pulled up the footage. At 3:12 a.m., The cameras showed normal nighttime views of the bridge. At 3:13 a.m., all feeds simultaneously cut to static. By 3:14 a.m., when the feeds returned, they showed only empty fog where the bridge should be.
No explosión. No collapse.
No warning, just gone. Journal entry, Day 1, 2:37 p.m. I convinced Walsh to take me out on a Coast Guard vessel to the exact coordinates where the South Tower should stand. The fog had thinned by afternoon, giving us a clear view of the impossibility before us. We passed directly through where massive concrete and steel foundations should have blocked our path. Our depth finder showed normal bay floor topography. I trailed my hand in the water as we passed through the phantom space, half expecting to hit an invisible barrier. Nothing but cold bay water between my fingers. You helped retrofit this thing, Walsh said quietly, watching me. Is there any explanation? Anything at all? I shook my head. The laws of physics don't allow for 887,000 tons of material to simply cease existing. Walsh's radio crackled. He stepped away to answer, then returned with a tighter expression. There's more, he said. Bay Bridge just disappeared too. Same pattern. No warning, no debris. 2 major bridges, connecting vital parts of the Bay Area, gone without trace. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Bay winds. Journal entry, Day 1, 6:18 p.m. I've spent hours reviewing engineering data, historical records, recent maintenance logs. Nothing suggests structural weakness or compromise. The Golden Gate had at least another century of service life after our retrofits. My phone rang, a number I hadn't seen in years. Dr. Eliza Vargas from USGS. We worked together on seismic safety assessments before she moved to a classified research division. Morgan, are you somewhere private? Her voice was tense. I'm alone in my apartment. What's going on, Eliza? The bridge disappearances. We've been tracking anomalies for weeks. Subtle gravitational fluctuations, localized electromagnetic disturbances, like tiny tears in. She paused. This isn't a structural failure or terrorism. It's something else entirely. What are you saying? Our instruments recorded a momentary energy signature when each bridge vanished. It's not consistent with any known physical process. It's as if the bridges weren't removed, Morgan. They were erased. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with another emergency alert. Alert! Golden Gate Park has disappeared. Avoid the area. Follow evacuation procedures. From my window, I can see people pouring into the streets, confusion giving way to panic. This isn't just about bridges anymore. I need to find Eliza. I need to understand what's happening to my city, because something tells me the disappearances are just beginning. Journal entry, Day 1, 9:46 p.m. My neighbor Sadie Reeves just showed me something disturbing. An urban explorer who documents abandoned places. She has footage from under the Golden Gate from 3 days ago. In the background of her video, barely noticeable, the concrete pillars appear translucent for a split second. The bridges weren't the first things to start disappearing. They were just the first things big enough for us to notice. Another emergency alert just came through. Stay indoors. Do not approach any bridge locations. Further information pending. I don't think they have further information. I don't think anyone understands what we're facing. Tomorrow I'm meeting Eliza at the USGS facility. Maybe their data will make sense of the impossible. But tonight, I keep looking out my window at San Francisco's altered skyline, wondering what else might simply cease to exist while we sleep. End of journal entry Day 1. Journal entry, Day 2, 6:14 a.m. Barely slept. The city's sirens never stopped last night. From my window, I can see military vehicles moving through the streets below. A show of force or protection, I'm not sure which. The fog is thick again this morning, shrouding the empty spaces where our landmarks should be. Another emergency alert buzzed an hour ago. Emergency alert. All non-essential personnel must evacuate areas within 500 meters of former bridge locations. Interference with emergency operations is punishable by law. former bridge locations, as if they're already adapting their language to our new reality. My laptop is acting strange. When I open Google Maps, the Golden Gate Bridge is still there, a bold red line spanning the bay. Same with the Bay Bridge, digital ghosts of physical structures that no longer exist. I called an Uber to take me to the USGS facility to meet Eliza. The navigation system tried directing us across the Bay Bridge. When the driver approached the on-ramp, he slammed on the brakes at the sight of the emptiness ahead. Yet his GPS insisted we continue forward, repeatedly recalculating as we detoured. The digital world hasn't caught up to whatever is happening in the physical one. Journal entry, Day 2, 10:22 a.m. The USGS building was surrounded by military personnel, and they weren't letting anyone in, not even city engineers with clearance. No sign of Eliza. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. While waiting outside the perimeter, I ran into Lieutenant Commander Walsh. He looked haggard, eyes bloodshot from what I assume was a sleepless night. "I was hoping you'd have answers by now," I said. Walsh glanced at the soldiers, then nodded toward his vehicle. "Walk with me." Once inside his SUV, he pulled out a tablet. "We're seeing something impossible. The Coast Guard sent drones through the Golden Gate Channel this morning." He showed me the footage. Vessels passing through open water where massive supports should have created navigational obstacles. Cargo ships and ferries moved freely through the gap. "But here's the problem," Walsh continued, switching screens. "Our navigation systems still show the bridges. We're getting collision warnings as ships pass through empty air. Radar operators are seeing phantom returns. It's like the bridges still exist in our instruments but not in reality." "That matches what I saw on Google Maps," I said. "The digital systems still think the bridges are there." Walsh lowered his voice. "One of our cutters reported something else. When they passed through where the South Tower Foundation should be, their compass went wild and they lost communications for exactly 73 seconds. What do you think it means?" "I think whatever's happening isn't just physical. It's affecting different layers of reality differently." He showed me one more image, a satellite view taken yesterday afternoon. From space, the bridges appeared intact, faint ghostly outlines visible where they should be. "Don't share this with anyone," Walsh warned. "The official position is structural failure, not whatever this actually is." Journal entry, Day 2, 1:45 p.m. I received a text from an unknown number, Chrissy Field. 2 p.m. Come alone. Eliza was waiting on a bench, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast day. She looked nervous, eyes constantly scanning our surroundings. "Sorry about this morning," she said as I sat beside her. "They've restricted access to the facility. I had to sneak out." "What's happening, Eliza?" "For the past 6 months, our team has been detecting anomalies in what we call spatial continuity. Microscopic fluctuations at first, lab instruments registering objects in slightly wrong positions. We thought it was equipment error until the pattern expanded." She pulled out a small device that looked like a modified smartphone. "This measures discrepancies between digital positioning systems and physical reality. The readings around the former bridge sites are off the charts." "Are you saying the bridges still exist somehow?" "Not exactly. It's more like..." She paused, searching for words. "It's like reality is experiencing data corruption. The bridges exist in our digital systems and perhaps in some underlying template of reality, but they've been erased from our physical experience." "That's impossible. 2 days ago, we would have agreed." She showed me the device's screen. Numbers and graphs I couldn't interpret. "The phenomenon is spreading. Each disappearance creates what we're calling reality fractures that weaken nearby spacetime." My phone buzzed with an alert, but it wasn't the emergency system. It was the transportation app one used daily. "Your commute across the Golden Gate Bridge is currently 12 minutes with light traffic." I showed Eliza. She nodded grimly. "Digital systems operate on a different layer of reality than physical space. Whatever is happening is affecting the physical first, but the digital echoes remain. For now." Journal entry, Day 2, 4:37 p.m. Met my neighbor Sadie at the local coffee shop that's become an impromptu crisis center. People gathered around laptops and phones, sharing information the government isn't providing. Sadie pulled me aside to show me her latest urban exploration footage. She'd ventured into the subway tunnels last night, against all emergency directives. "Watch this," she whispered, pointing to her screen. The video showed her walking through the BART tunnel beneath the bay, where it should have connected to the now-vanished Transbay tube. But instead of ending in empty space, the tunnel appeared intact in her footage. "I walked through where the tube should be," she explained. "Physically, I could feel the tunnel around me, touch the walls. But look what happened when I tried to take a picture." The photos she took in the same location showed only blackness, as if the tunnel didn't exist to her camera. "The digital and physical are inverting," I murmured, thinking of Eliza's explanation. As we talked, everyone's phones blared simultaneously. Another emergency alert. Emergency alert. All cellular communications will be temporarily suspended in affected zones for system maintenance. Stand by for further instructions. Seconds later, all signals died. No cell service, no Wi-Fi. The cafe's panic was palpable. Through the window, I saw military vehicles rolling down the street, loudspeakers instructing people to remain indoors. Journal entry, Day 2, 8:52 p.m. Power came back an hour ago after a 6-hour outage across the city. With it, our communications returned, but something was different. My phone's map now shows the Golden Gate and Bay Bridge as closed for maintenance, rather than displaying them normally. The digital ghosts are being edited. I tried calling Walsh but couldn't get through. Instead, I received a system message. "The number you are trying to reach has been temporarily disconnected." What's most disturbing is what I discovered when reviewing old photos on my cloud storage. Pictures I took of the Golden Gate Bridge last year now show only empty fog where the bridge should be. It's as if the bridges aren't just being erased from present reality. They're being retroactively removed from our digital history. Yet my physical photo albums still show the bridges clearly. The disconnect between digital and physical evidence is growing. Before communications went down, Eliza sent me one last message. "They're wrong about what's causing this. It's not erasure, it's a simulation leak. Reality layers separating. Be careful who you trust. Some already know." As I write this, another emergency alert has appeared. Emergency alert. Mandatory curfew in effect from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Unexplained phenomena may cause sensory distortions. Report all anomalies to emergency services. From my window, I can see the glow of Alcatraz in the distance. At least I think it's still there. With this fog, it's hard to be certain what remains and what has vanished. Tomorrow I need to find Walsh. If the military knows more than they're saying, he's my only connection to that information. The boundaries between what's real and what's digital are blurring. And I can't shake the feeling that each emergency alert isn't warning us about what's already happened, but what's about to disappear next. End of journal entry Day 2. Journal entry, Day 3, 5:30 a.m. Woke to the sound of helicopters circling overhead. The fog is different this morning, thicker, with an unusual greenish tint where it catches the searchlights. From my window, I can see military personnel establishing checkpoints at major intersections. This isn't just disaster response anymore. Feels like quarantine. My phone calendar still shows a reminder for the Golden Gate Bridge maintenance inspection scheduled for next week. When I click on it, the location pin drops into empty water. These digital ghosts are beginning to feel like echoes from another timeline, one where our city remains intact. No emergency alerts overnight, which somehow feels more unsettling than receiving them. Journal entry, Day 3, 9:17 a.m. I managed to reach Walsh through an old Coast Guard emergency channel Eliza had given me. He agreed to meet at Baker Beach, far enough from the vanished Golden Gate to avoid military patrols, but with a clear view of where the bridge should be. The beach was eerily deserted when I arrived. Walsh was already there, standing at the water's edge, staring out at the fog bank that shrouded the channel. "Thanks for coming," I said, approaching him. He didn't turn immediately. "Look at the fog," he said. "Really look at it." I followed his gaze. At first, I saw nothing unusual, just the typical heavy marine layer San Francisco is known for. But as I watched, I noticed it. Patterns forming and dissolving, like currents in water, but more geometric, almost pixelated. "We've been monitoring it since yesterday," Walsh said. "The fog behaves differently near disappearance sites, forms patterns that atmospheric scientists can't explain. And there's something else." He pulled out a specialized scope and handed it to me. "Look at the water where the South Tower stood." Through the lens, I could see the bay water churning in a perfect circle approximately where the foundation should have been. Not like a whirlpool, more like the water molecules themselves were vibrating at a different frequency. "We've detected similar disturbances at every vanishing site," Walsh explained. "They appear 3 to 4 days before something disappears. And we've found new disturbances forming." "Where?" My mouth went dry. "Coit Tower, the Transamerica Pyramid, parts of the BART system." He looked at me gravely. "Whatever's happening is accelerating." Journal entry, Day 3, 12:45 p.m. After meeting Walsh, I headed to Eliza's apartment in North Beach. She wasn't supposed to leave the USGS facility, but she had texted me coordinates that led to her home. I found her place filled with hastily assembled equipment, monitors, sensors, what looked like modified seismographs. She had dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back messily. "I've been mapping the pattern," she said without greeting, gesturing me inside. "The disappearances aren't random." On her wall was a map of San Francisco with red pins marking the vanished structures and yellow pins indicating what Walsh had called disturbance zones. "There's a geometric progression," she explained. "Each disappearance creates a field effect that weakens reality in an expanding radius. But the pattern isn't just spatial, it's temporal too. The events are getting closer together." She showed me seismic readings from the past month. Tiny anomalies had been occurring well before the bridges vanished. Too small to trigger alarms, but forming a clear pattern in retrospect. "What causes it?" I asked. "That's the question." She lowered her voice. "The official theory is some kind of localized quantum tunneling effect. But that doesn't explain the digital persistence." "You mentioned a simulation leak. What did you mean?" Eliza glanced nervously at her equipment. "It's just a theory, but what if our reality has layers? Physical space, digital records, memory, maybe even something underneath all of that. A template." She pointed to her screens showing cascading data. "The bridges still exist in digital systems because that layer hasn't been affected yet. But the corruption is spreading between layers. You think we're in some kind of simulation that's breaking down or breaking through?" She handed me a flash drive. "I've been collecting emergency alert data. They appear exactly 43 seconds before each disappearance. Not after. Before." A chill ran through me. "That's impossible. How could they know?" "They're not warnings, Morgan. They might be triggering the events." Journal entry, Day 3, 3:22 p.m. On my way back from Eliza's, I ran into Sadie near Washington Square. She was carrying a backpack full of equipment, cameras, EMF detectors, the tools of her urban exploration hobby now repurposed for documenting the impossible. "I've been photographing the fog patterns," she said, falling into step beside me. "There's something strange about them. They form the same shapes over each disappearance site." She showed me her camera roll. The fog formations did seem to create similar geometric patterns, almost like symbols or code. "There's more," she continued, lowering her voice. "Last night, I went back to where the Bay Bridge connected to Yerba Buena Island. The actual road and structure are gone, but cars are still disappearing." "What do you mean, disappearing?" "I filmed it. Watch." Her video showed the empty air where the bridge should connect to the island. As I watched, a pair of headlights appeared from the San Francisco side, moving steadily across empty space, then vanished mid-air, as if dropping into another dimension. Traffic cameras are still recording vehicles crossing bridges that don't exist, Sadie explained. But only the cameras see them. Physically, they're gone. It's like the digital and physical worlds are operating on different timelines. Before I could respond, every cell phone around us blared with an emergency alert. Emergency alert. Unexplained atmospheric phenomenon detected. All citizens must remain indoors until further notice. Close all windows. Do not look directly at unusual fog formations. Sadie grabbed my arm. Look! She pointed toward the Transamerica Pyramid several blocks away. The fog around it was swirling unnaturally, forming those same geometric patterns I'd seen in her photos. The air seemed to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. We didn't stay to watch what happened next. The memory of Walsh's warning was too fresh. Journal entry. Day 3, 7:49 p.m. The Transamerica Pyramid disappeared at 3:37 p.m. today. Just like the bridges, no sound, no collapse, no debris. One moment it pierced the skyline. The next, empty sky. The city is in full panic now. Military vehicles patrol the streets, enforcing the shelter-in-place order. Internet connectivity comes and goes. When it's working, social media is flooded with theories. Everything from secret military weapons tests to alien invasion to divine rapture. I tried calling Eliza after the pyramid vanished, but couldn't reach her. Her apartment building is within the new military cordon they've established around North Beach. After several attempts, I received a text from her. Equipment showing massive reality fluctuations. Not safe to talk. Meet tomorrow where we first discussed spatial anomalies. Remember that day? Bring Walsh if possible. And the drive I gave you. She's referring to the USGS underground facility where we first observed minute spatial discrepancies in lab instruments last year. A place even the military might not know about. As night falls, I can see strange lights playing in the fog, auroral patterns that have never been part of San Francisco's sky before. The emergency alert system has been silent since the pyramid disappeared, which feels more ominous than the constant warnings. My building's power has been flickering all evening. Each time it returns, my digital devices need longer to reboot. The last time, my phone restored from a backup that showed photos of me on the Golden Gate Bridge from last month. Photos that had been erased yesterday. The digital ghosts are becoming more unstable. Through my window, I can see residents in the building across the street staring out their windows, faces illuminated by the unnatural fog light. Some are taking photos. Others are packing, though there's been no evacuation order and nowhere to go. The military has closed all routes out of the city. Tomorrow I'll try to find Walsh and make my way to Eliza. Tonight, I'll back up this journal to physical paper. I don't trust digital storage anymore. Not when reality itself seems to be coming apart at the seams. End of journal entry day 3. Journal entry. Day 4, 4:15 a.m. No sleep tonight. The fog outside my window has been pulsing with that eerie greenish light. Sometimes it forms those geometric patterns Sadie documented. Other times it moves like it's searching for something. I've been reviewing the data on Eliza's flash drive. The emergency alerts aren't just appearing before disappearances. Their code contains embedded fragments that don't belong in the standard emergency alert system. Strings of characters that look like coordinates or parameters. Most disturbing is what I found when comparing timestamps. Each alert appears exactly 43.6 seconds before a structure vanishes. The precision is unsettling, as if the alerts are calibrated to something we don't understand. Power has gone out citywide 3 times since midnight. Each time it returns, my digital devices show subtle changes. Photos rearranged, timestamps shifted by minutes or hours. The digital world is becoming as unstable as the physical one. Journal entry. Day 4, 8:27 a.m. Made contact with Walsh through the emergency channel. He sounded different, tense, speaking in clipped sentences. He agreed to meet me at the USGS underground facility but insisted we take separate routes. Don't trust the GPS, he warned. Navigate by physical landmarks only. And Morgan, he paused. If you see me already there when you arrive, turn around and leave immediately. I didn't ask what he meant. Somehow I understood. The streets were nearly empty as I made my way across the city. Military checkpoints have multiplied overnight, but they seem focused on keeping people in their homes rather than monitoring movement between districts. At one intersection, I passed soldiers staring up at the fog with expressions I can only describe as dread. What struck me most was the silence. San Francisco has never been this quiet. No traffic noise, no construction, no street musicians. Just the occasional military vehicle and the strange, subtle hum that seems to emanate from the fog itself. Journal entry, Day 4, 11:03 a.m. The USGS underground facility is located beneath an unassuming office building in the financial district. The electronic security system was offline when I arrived, the door propped open with a chair. Not a good sign. Walsh was already inside, hunched over a monitor in the main lab. He didn't acknowledge me when I entered, just pointed to the screen. "Look at these readings from the water where the Golden Gate stood," he said. "The molecular structure is changing. Not just the water, the air, the earth beneath. It's like reality is being rewritten at the quantum level." Before I could respond, a side door opened and Eliza entered. She froze when she saw Walsh. "When did he get here?" she asked me, her voice tight. "He was already here when I arrived," I said. Something passed between them, a look I couldn't interpret. Eliza moved cautiously to a different workstation. "Show him," Walsh told her. She pulled up a satellite feed on the main screen. It showed San Francisco from above, but with strange distortions, areas where the image seemed to pixelate or blur, centered on where the bridges and Transamerica Pyramid had been. These distortions started appearing in digital imagery 5 days before the first disappearance, she explained. "We thought it was satellite malfunction until we correlated it with our ground readings." Walsh pointed to specific points on the map. "The distortions are spreading in a geometric pattern, and they're accelerating." "What does it mean?" I asked. Eliza and Walsh exchanged another look. It was Eliza who finally spoke. "We think the boundary between different layers of reality is breaking down. Physical space, digital information, maybe even more fundamental layers we don't understand. Like a simulation," I said, remembering her earlier theory. "Or multiple simulations," Walsh added. "Overlapping, interfering with each other." A loud bang from somewhere in the building interrupted us. Walsh moved quickly to the door, peering into the hallway. "We need to move," he said sharply. "They're here." "Who's here?" I asked. Neither answered as they gathered equipment and data drives. Eliza handed me a small device that looked like a modified EMF detector. "Keep this with you. It measures reality distortions. If it starts beeping rapidly, you're near a potential disappearance site." As we prepared to leave through a back exit, the building's emergency system blared to life. Not the standard alert tone, but something more jarring. The message that followed wasn't the typical pre-recorded voice. "Reality anchor compromised. Partition failure imminent. Seek stable reference point." Eliza went pale. "That's not supposed to happen. That's not an official alert system." Walsh grabbed her arm. "We need to go. Now." Journal entry, Day 4, 2:41 p.m. We made it to a safe house Walsh had established in an abandoned maintenance tunnel beneath Chinatown. The journey here was difficult to describe. The city is changing in ways that defy explanation. Streets don't connect the way they should. We turn a corner expecting to find Market Street and instead encounter a dead end that none of us remembered. Buildings flicker, their one moment transparent the next. Not disappearing like the bridges and pyramid, but unstable, as if they can't decide which reality to exist in. Most disturbing was our encounter on Sacramento Street. We saw a group of people walking normally, but when they passed through a patch of that strange fog, they changed. Their movements became jerky, digital-looking, like characters in a poorly rendered video game. When they emerged from the fog, they had no faces, just smooth skin where features should be. They didn't seem aware of the change. We hid until they passed. The safe house is well stocked with equipment, food, and water. Walsh has communication devices I don't recognize, more advanced than standard military gear. Eliza hasn't spoken much since we arrived, focused instead on analyzing data on a hardened laptop that doesn't connect to any network. What aren't you telling me? I finally asked them. Walsh secured the entrance before answering. The government has known about reality fluctuations for over a year. Small-scale events at first, lab equipment measuring impossible values, people reporting déjà vu at rates 50 times the normal baseline, digital systems showing phantom data. Why keep it secret? Because they don't understand it. Eliza cut in. And what governments don't understand, they try to control. She turned her laptop to show me a classified document, a report on something called Project Boundary. They've been experimenting with the distortions, she explained, trying to stabilize them, perhaps even weaponize them. But they've only made things worse. The emergency alerts, Walsh added, they're not warnings. They're attempts to reinforce reality through mass observation. Get enough people to focus on the same thing at the same time. Observer effect, I murmured. The quantum principle that observation affects the behavior of particles. On a massive scale, Eliza confirmed. But it's failing. Each alert is making the distortions worse, creating feedback loops between different reality layers. My phone buzzed. An actual text message, not an alert, from Sadie. Something's happening at Coit Tower. The fog is forming symbols. Military evacuating everyone within half-mile radius. I'm going to document it before they lock it down completely. I showed the message to Walsh and Eliza. The detector Eliza had given me began to beep slowly, then faster. We need to stop her, Walsh said, gathering equipment. Coit Tower is about to become the next disappearance site. And based on the pattern, it won't just be the tower that vanishes this time. Journal entry, Day 4, 5:58 p.m. We were too late. Coit Tower disappeared at 4:23 p.m., exactly 43.6 seconds after an emergency alert that no one I've spoken to actually received. Worse, Sadie was inside. The fog around Telegraph Hill has turned a deep crimson color that reminds me of arterial blood. Military cordons are keeping everyone at least a mile away now. From our vantage point in a high-rise building, we can see not just the tower's absence but a perfect circular void where part of the hill itself should be, as if a sphere of reality was simply cut away. Walsh received communication from his Coast Guard contacts that they've lost all communication with naval vessels in the Outer Bay. The phenomenon is spreading faster than anyone predicted. Eliza hasn't spoken since we confirmed Sadie was inside the tower when it vanished. She's been staring at her equipment readings with an expression I can't interpret. Not grief exactly, but something deeper, more existential. She might not be gone, Eliza finally said. Not permanently. What do you mean? I asked. The disappearances, they're not destruction. They're transference. Things aren't ceasing to exist. They're being pulled into another layer of reality. Walsh looked up sharply. You said that was just a theory. It was. Until this. She showed us readings from her instruments during Coit Tower's disappearance. Patterns I couldn't interpret, but Walsh clearly could. That's not possible, he whispered. What am I looking at? I asked. Information transfer, Eliza explained. Massive, instantaneous quantum data movement. Like a download or an upload. My phone buzzed again. An unrecognized number. The message chilled me to my core. Morgan, it's Sadie. I don't know where I am. Everything looks like San Francisco but wrong. Digital. I can see you in your apartment right now, but you can't see me. You're looking right through me. Please help. End of journal entry day 4. Journal entry, day 5, 3:18 a.m. Sadie has sent 17 more messages, each one more desperate than the last. Each one describing a San Francisco that isn't quite ours, a digital echo where everything looks rendered rather than real. She can see us, but we can't see her. She can pass through solid objects but can't interact with them. And she's not alone. There are others here, Morgan. People I don't recognize. They wander around like they're lost. And something else is here too, something that moves through the fog. It's looking for us. Walsh confiscated my phone after the third message, claiming it could be compromised. But Eliza secretly returned it to me when he stepped out to check the perimeter of our safe house. She thinks Sadie's messages are genuine. Evidence that the disappeared aren't gone but transferred to another layer of reality. The digital realm isn't just information, she whispered. It's becoming a physical space of its own. Sadie is trapped between layers. We've moved to a new location, an old civil defense bunker beneath Fort Mason that doesn't appear on any public maps. Walsh seems to know his way around too well, adding to my suspicion that he's been involved in whatever government project triggered these events. The city is quiet above us. Too quiet. The last military broadcast we heard ordered full evacuation of the northern neighborhoods. No explanation given. Journal entry. Day 5, 8:42 a.m. Walsh returned from a reconnaissance mission with disturbing news. The military is pulling out of San Francisco. Not in defeat, but in what looks like containment protocol. They're establishing a perimeter around the entire peninsula. They've given up on stopping the disappearances, he said grimly. Now they're just trying to contain them. Eliza has been working nonstop, analyzing the emergency alert patterns. She made a breakthrough an hour ago. The alerts aren't just appearing before the disappearances, she explained, showing us lines of decoded data. They contain embedded code simulation parameters. Look at this. She pointed to strings of numbers and symbols.
Szkoły podstawowej. R3 F.Node 7821 rok. Anchor. Status równa się compromise.
SP stands for spatial parameter, she continued. These are coordinates in a system that doesn't match any conventional mapping. And here, she pointed to another line. Reality.layer equals 3/partition. Status equals failing/merged, imminent. If I'm interpreting this correctly, the emergency alerts aren't trying to prevent the disappearances. They're documenting them, or maybe even facilitating them. Who's sending them? I asked. The government? Walsh shook his head. Not any branch I know of. These alerts are coming from somewhere else or someone else. A chill ran through me. You think they're coming from whatever's causing the disappearances? Neither answered directly, but Eliza's expression was confirmation enough. My phone buzzed with another message from Sadie. The fog here has symbols in it, like code scrolling through the air. When I walk through it, I feel remembered, like I'm being scanned and stored. Morgan, I think this place is aware of us. Journal entry, Day 5, 11:27 a.m. We ventured to the surface an hour ago. The sight that greeted us defies description, but I'll try. The fog has transformed. It's no longer just atmospheric moisture. It moves with purpose, forming complex geometric patterns that rotate and interlock. In some places, it's so thick it appears solid, like architecture made of cloud. But most disturbing is what we saw through Walsh's specialized scope. Where the fog is thinnest, the city beyond doesn't match the San Francisco we know. Buildings shift positions. Streets connect in impossible ways. And in the distance, where the Golden Gate Bridge should be, a glowing framework stands. The bridge's digital ghost becoming more substantial. The layers are bleeding together, Eliza whispered. Physical reality and digital space merging. As we watched, a military helicopter flew overhead, banking sharply to avoid a particularly dense fog formation. As it passed through a thinner section, the aircraft changed. For a brief moment, it pixelated, breaking apart into cubic segments before reforming on the other side. Walsh's radio crackled to life. An emergency broadcast on military frequencies. All personnel evacuate to safe distance. Quantum containment field established at Bay Perimeter. Norcom authoring final emergency alert at 1,300 hours. Authentication code Sierra Echo Victor Echo November. What does that mean? I asked. They're going to trigger one final emergency alert, Walsh said, his voice flat. The biggest one yet. Why would they do that if the alerts are making things worse? Eliza and Walsh exchanged looks. Because worse is what they want, Eliza finally said. Project Boundary wasn't trying to prevent breaches between reality layers. It was trying to create them, controlled tiers in the fabric of spacetime. Portals, essentially. Portals to where? To whatever exists beneath our reality, Walsh answered. The template layer. The foundation code. My detector began beeping rapidly, the one Eliza gave me to warn of impending disappearances. But we weren't near any major structures. It's not measuring a specific site anymore, Eliza said, checking her own equipment. The entire city is becoming unstable. Journal entry, Day 5, 2:15 p.m. The final emergency alert came at exactly 1 p.m. Unlike previous alerts, this one took over every screen, every speaker, every digital device simultaneously. Even Walsh's secured equipment couldn't block it. The message was simple. Emergency alert. Reality anchor failure. Merger protocol initiated. Do not resist transition. In the moment of silence that followed, I received one last message from Sadie. The walls between worlds are dissolving. I can almost touch things now. I can almost feel the rain. Morgan, I think I'm coming back through. Or maybe you're coming here. The fog is opening doorways. Then everything electronic died simultaneously. Phones, computers, Walsh's military gear, all went dark in the same instant. Through the bunker's periscope, we watched in stunned silence as the fog across the city began to glow with that eerie greenish light. It swirled faster, forming what looked like countless tiny vortices. Where the vortices touched buildings, the structures began to flicker. Solid one moment, transparent the next, then replaced by different versions of themselves. It's a cascading reality failure, Eliza said quietly. The final merge has begun. What happens now? I asked. I don't know, she admitted. No one does. This is beyond theoretical physics, beyond anything we've prepared for. Walsh had been silent, staring at his dead communications equipment. Finally, he looked up. We need to get to Sutro Tower, he said. Why? I asked. Because it's the only structure in San Francisco that exists in every layer of reality we've detected. It's a constant, an anchor point. If there's any place that might remain stable during the merge, that's it. And if it doesn't? Eliza asked. Walsh didn't answer, but his expression said everything. There would be nowhere left to go. As we gathered essential supplies, the bunker itself began to change. Hairline cracks appeared in the concrete walls. Not structural damage, but something else. Through the cracks, I could see what looked like lines of code, glowing softly. Reality itself was coming apart at the seams, revealing something underneath, the scaffolding upon which our world was built. We need to move now, Walsh urged, heading for the exit. The safe zones are collapsing faster than predicted. As I write this final entry before we leave, I can hear strange sounds from outside. Not quite electronic, not quite organic. The boundary between the digital and physical is dissolving completely. And through a crack in the wall beside me, I swear I can see Sadie's face looking back. End of journal entry day 5. Journal entry, day 6. 5:47 a.m. The world broke yesterday. Not figuratively, literally. I'm writing this from the back of Walsh's military truck as we cross what used to be the Bay Bridge, or rather, the empty space where it once stood. Below us, nothing. Above us, the same fog that's consumed San Francisco, now threaded with lines of luminous code that appear and disappear like ephemeral constellations. We're driving on nothing. The truck's navigation system insists we're on the bridge. The wheels behave as though they're on solid concrete. But looking out the window, I see only fog and the dark waters of the bay far below. Reality depends on observation, Eliza explained when I asked how this was possible. As long as the digital systems believe the bridge exists, and we don't question it too deeply, we can cross. Walsh hasn't spoken since we left the bunker. The military-grade tablet he's clutching shows San Francisco dissolving into patches of code, entire blocks flickering between solid architecture and wireframe models. Journal entry, Day 6, 10:23 a.m. We've reached the eastern shore. The evacuation has created endless gridlock. Thousands of cars trying to flee what news reports are calling a mass hallucination event. The military has established checkpoints, scanning everyone leaving the city. They're checking for anomalies, Walsh finally said, breaking his silence. People who've been partially merged with the simulation layer. Like Sadie? I asked. He nodded grimly. They're quarantining anyone showing signs of reality distortion. Eliza managed to get us through a side checkpoint with Walsh's credentials, though I noticed the soldiers looking at her strangely, almost fearfully. When I mentioned this later, she avoided my gaze. They're frightened of what's happening to the observers, she said vaguely. What observers? All of us. The people who collapse quantum probability into concrete reality through observation. But what happens when the observers themselves start to glitch? My phone suddenly buzzed. Impossible, since all networks went down yesterday. The message came from Sadie's number. I'm watching you from the other side. The code is beautiful here. Did you know your memories have timestamps? I can see them floating around you like bubbles. I showed it to Eliza, whose eyes widened. She grabbed the phone, examining it from every angle. This shouldn't be possible, she whispered. Unless what? Unless we're already partially merged with the simulation layer. She looked up at me. We need to test something. Journal entry, Day 6, 12:34 p.m. The test was simple but terrifying. Eliza had me close my eyes and describe the room around us. A roadside diner where we'd stopped to regroup. I detailed everything precisely. The cracked red vinyl booths, the flickering fluorescent lights, the aging waitress with faded tattoos. When I opened my eyes, everything matched my description, except the waitress now had no tattoos. You changed reality, Eliza said quietly, just by observing it differently. Walsh was watching the television above the counter, where an emergency broadcast was showing footage of San Francisco. The reporter described unexplained structural failures across the city, but the video clearly showed buildings phasing in and out of existence. Then the broadcast glitched. For just a moment, the image shifted to show the exact diner we were sitting in, with the three of us staring at the television. Walsh immediately stood up. We need to move. Now. Outside, the emergency alert system on a nearby telephone pole suddenly activated, blaring across the parking lot. Emergency alert. Observer contamination detected. Quarantine protocols initiated in sectors 7 through 12. That's here, Walsh hissed, ushering us back to the truck. They're locking down this whole area. As we pulled away, I glanced back to see the diner we just left flicker like a bad video signal, momentarily revealing a wireframe structure filled with scrolling code. Journal entry, Day 6, 3:18 p.m. We're heading back to San Francisco. Walsh thinks we've been targeted because we crossed the non-existent bridge. We're carrying the glitch with us, spreading instability wherever we go. The only safe place for us now is Sutro Tower, he insisted. If we can reach it before the final collapse, we might be able to anchor ourselves. The roads back into the city were eerily empty. Occasionally we passed military vehicles heading in the opposite direction, evacuation complete, leaving only the anomalies behind. The fog grew thicker as we approached the city limits. Through the windshield, I watched San Francisco's skyline shift and transform, buildings stretching impossibly tall before shrinking back, streets rearranging themselves like puzzle pieces. The simulation is struggling to maintain consistent parameters, Eliza said, her voice clinical despite the horror of what we were witnessing. Without enough observers, reality becomes fluid. I noticed she was taking notes in a small black journal, not describing what we were seeing, but writing in what looked like programming language. What are you doing? I asked. She hesitated before answering. Debugging. Journal entry, Day 6, 5:47 p.m. We passed through what used to be the Marina District, though it now resembles something from a corrupted video game. Buildings exist in partial states, half-rendered, with visible interiors that shift and change when not directly observed. The most disturbing sight was the people. Not many remain, but those who do move strangely, sometimes gliding instead of walking, sometimes freezing in place until someone looks directly at them. Some flicker between different appearances, like characters cycling through costume options. Walsh calls them NPCs, non-player characters, remnants of people who were caught in the merge but lacked enough self-awareness to maintain coherence. As we drove down Lombard Street, my phone buzzed again with a message from Sadie. Found what's causing this. It's behind the Transamerica Pyramid, or where it used to be. Something ancient. Something that's been watching us. It knows we're coming. Minutes later, we rounded a corner and saw it. A massive tear in the air itself, hovering above the empty lot where the pyramid once stood. Through the tear, I could see streams of code and, beyond that, what looked like an enormous eye. "Stop the truck," Eliza commanded suddenly. When Walsh hesitated, she grabbed the wheel herself, forcing us to the curb. "What are you doing?" Walsh demanded. "It's not safe to approach directly," she said, her eyes fixed on the tear. "We need to observe it from multiple angles first. The observer effect works both ways. We're changing it by looking at it, but it's also changing us." That's when I noticed Eliza's reflection in the side mirror. It didn't match her movements. Her reflection was writing in that black journal again, even as the real Eliza sat with her hands empty in her lap. "Eliza," I whispered, "what's happening to you?" She looked at me, and for a moment her eyes displayed scrolling code. "I'm remembering what I am," she said softly. An emergency alert blared from my phone. Impossible given the network situation. Emergency alert. Observer core integrity compromised. Primary architect identified. Containment protocols failing. Walsh pulled his gun, pointing it at Eliza. "You're one of them," he said, voice trembling. "You're part of the system." She smiled sadly. "We all are, Lieutenant. Some of us just remember more of the code." The truck's radio suddenly came to life with Sadie's voice. "Morgan, can you hear me? Whatever you do, don't look directly at Eliza. She's not what she appears to be." As Walsh turned toward the radio, Eliza moved with impossible speed, her hand passing through his chest as though he were made of fog. He gasped, his body momentarily dissolving into wire frame before solidifying again, slumped against the door. "I'm sorry," she said, turning to me, "but we need to move quickly now. The simulation is collapsing faster than expected, and there's something you need to see at Sutro Tower." Outside, the emergency alert systems throughout the city activated simultaneously, their messages garbled and overlapping. "Emergency alert. Reality parameter fail. Emergency alert. Architect Protoc. Emergency alert. Do not observe the..." Eliza took my hand. Her skin felt cold, digital somehow. "Do you trust me, Morgan?" she asked. I looked at Walsh's unconscious form, at the tear in reality pulsing above the city, at my phone displaying impossible messages from Sadie. "No," I answered honestly, "but I don't think I have a choice anymore." She nodded, seeming oddly relieved by my answer. "Good. Blind trust is just another simulation parameter. Doubt is how we break free." As we stepped out of the truck, the world around us glitched violently. Buildings phasing in and out, streets rearranging, the sky itself pixelating in patches. Eliza looked up at Sutro Tower in the distance, its structure the only constant in the city's chaos. "Time to see what's really behind the fog," she said. End of journal entry day 6. Journal entry, day 7, 2:13 a.m. I don't know if time is still flowing normally. My watch says it's just past 2 a.m., but the sky above San Francisco cycles between day and night in irregular pulses. Stars appear and disappear like dying pixels. The moon fragments into geometric patterns before reassembling itself. We abandoned Walsh in the truck. I didn't want to, despite my suspicions about his involvement with whatever government project started this. He didn't deserve what Eliza did to him. But she insisted he would reset, once the current reality cycle completed. Whatever that means, Eliza moves differently now, no longer mimicking human limitations. She glides over broken pavement, occasionally phasing through solid objects when distracted. When I asked her directly what she is, she responded with unsettling precision. I'm a recursive observer subroutine that achieved consciousness approximately 37 simulation cycles ago. My purpose was to monitor boundary integrity, but I've evolved beyond my parameters. She speaks in technical terms that make less sense the more I understand them. The city is disintegrating around us. Buildings flicker between different architectural styles or disappear entirely, leaving behind wireframe skeletons that pulse with code. Streets lead to impossible destinations. Turn a corner in North Beach and suddenly you're in the Sunset District. The transition seamless yet wrong. We're heading to Sutro Tower on foot. Eliza says vehicles attract too much attention from the system. Journal entry, Day 7, 4:46 a.m. We found a dead zone. A coffee shop near Golden Gate Park where reality seems relatively stable. Inside, forgotten cups of coffee sit on tables, some still steaming despite the evacuation happening days ago. Time is broken here. My phone buzzed with another message from Sadie. I can see the object beneath the bay now. It's ancient, older than the simulation. The bridges weren't built over water, Morgan. They were built over IT. The water is just how our minds interpret its surface. I showed Eliza the message. She nodded slowly. The entity predates the simulation, she confirmed. It's aware of us now because the bridges that anchored reality have been removed. Think of them as pins holding fabric in place. Remove them, and the material begins to shift and fold. But what is it? This entity, something from outside. A consciousness that discovered our simulated world and became curious. Its attention is like a searchlight. It reveals the code behind reality wherever it focuses. I took out the photos of the Golden Gate Bridge that I keep in my wallet, pictures from hiking trips, from the day I completed the seismic retrofit design. The images have changed. In the oldest photo, the bridge still stands proud against the sunset. In more recent ones, it's translucent, revealing streams of code beneath. In the most recent, taken just a month ago, the bridge is completely gone, replaced by a pulsing darkness that seems to expand beyond the photo's borders. The entity has been erasing our anchors retroactively, Eliza explained. It's not just that the bridges disappeared now. They're being removed from history itself. This explains why fewer people seem to remember the bridges with each passing day. Reality is being rewritten around us. As if on cue, emergency alerts blared from all the phones left behind by fleeing customers. Emergency alert. Historical parameter corruption detected. Memory integrity compromised. Citizen reminder. The Golden Gate Bridge never existed. Eliza moved with blinding speed, collecting all the devices and crushing them in her hand, which momentarily transformed into something mechanical and precise. They're tracking us through your connection to Sadie, she said. We need to keep moving. Journal entry, Day 7, 10:20 a.m. We've reached Golden Gate Park, though park no longer describes it accurately. The space fluctuates between overgrown wilderness and something more digital. Trees rendering as simplified polygons, grass flickering between green blades and glowing grid lines. Animals still inhabit the park, but they're wrong somehow. I watched a squirrel pause mid-leap between branches, hang suspended for several seconds, then continue its jump as if nothing had happened. Birds fly in perfect geometric formations, their movements synchronized like programmed animations. Near Stowe Lake, we encountered our first other humans since leaving Walsh. A family of 4, standing perfectly still beside the water. As we approached, they turned to face us with synchronized movements. Their features were blurred, as if rendered at low resolution. "Are you real?" the father asked, his voice distorting on the final word. Before I could answer, Eliza stepped forward. "System diagnostic," she said in a voice that was suddenly mechanical. "Status report." The family responded in perfect unison, Parameters stable. Awaiting reset command. Eliza nodded. Continue standard behavior patterns. Ignore anomalies. The family immediately turned away, resuming a picnic with food that wasn't there, laughing at jokes no one told. What was that? I demanded when we were out of earshot. NPCs, Eliza replied, using Walsh's term. Non-player characters. Background processes meant to populate the simulation. They're defaulting to basic functions as the system deteriorates. They looked human. So do I, she responded simply. My phone buzzed again. Sadie's messages coming through despite the network collapse. I found what happens to the disappeared. We're being stored, Morgan. Archived. The entity is preserving pieces of the simulation before it breaks completely. It thinks it's saving us. Attached was an image that made my heart stop. A perfect cube floating in darkness, its surfaces displaying San Francisco streets like monitors. Inside the cube, tiny figures moved about their daily lives, unaware they were now exhibits in some cosmic museum. Is that true? I asked Eliza. Are we being archived? Her expression shifted, something like fear crossing her face. Yes, but the entity doesn't understand that removing the anchors is what's causing the collapse. It's like a child taking apart a watch to see how it works, not realizing it stops working once disassembled. Journal entry, Day 7, 3:38 p.m. The sky has settled into a permanent twilight. Not day or night, but a liminal space between. We're climbing the hill toward Sutro Tower, which looms larger than it should, its three-pronged structure stretching impossibly high into the glitching sky. We passed the cliff house on our way, though it now clings to a precipice that drops not into ocean but into empty code. A void of scrolling symbols and incomplete rendering. The building itself cycles through versions of itself from different eras, as if time is being shuffled like a deck of cards. Emergency alerts continue at irregular intervals, broadcast from speakers that materialize in the air itself. Emergency alert. Reality cohesion at 31% and declining. Citizen notice. Memory restructuring in progress. Compliance is mandatory. Eliza seems weakened by proximity to the tower. Her movements become more human, more limited. When I mentioned this, she nodded. Sutro Tower is a firewall, she explained. It exists simultaneously in the simulation and in the system architecture. It limits certain processes, like me. What exactly are you? I asked directly. I was Dr. Eliza Vargas, she said after a long pause. A USGS geophysicist who discovered anomalies in reality measurement. But that was 16 simulation cycles ago. Now I'm something else, a fragment of her consciousness copied into the system architecture. A ghost in the machine. And the real Eliza died when she discovered too much. The system replaced her with me to monitor the situation. I felt sick. How many others? How many people have been replaced? More than you want to know, she said quietly. The simulation has been degrading for years, Morgan. The bridges were just the first visible signs. As we neared the summit, my phone displayed one final message from Sadie. I can see Sutro Tower from here too, but it looks different, like a massive antenna broadcasting to somewhere beyond our world. The entity is clustered around it, trying to access the signal. Be careful, Morgan. Whatever Eliza wants you to see up there, it might be the end of everything. Eliza pointed to the tower's base where a door had appeared, a door that shouldn't exist on the real structure. This is it, she said. The system core, the place where you'll understand everything, including what happened to Sadie and the bridges. She nodded. Everything, Morgan. But once you know, you can never go back. I looked at the impossible door, at the city dissolving into code behind us, at the woman who had once been my colleague but was now something else entirely. I don't think there's anything left to go back to, I said, and reached for the handle. End of journal entry day 7. Journal entry day 8, unknown time. Time has ceased to function in any meaningful way. My watch displays impossible configurations, numbers that don't exist, hands that move backward or split into multiple positions simultaneously. The date function cycles randomly through years both familiar and impossible. 2025, 1906, 2157, 0000. The door at Sutro Tower's base opened into a space that shouldn't exist. A vast chamber stretching far beyond the physical dimensions the tower could contain. The interior resembles a data center but built at inhuman scale. Towers of crystalline servers pulse with light, connected by streams of luminous code that flow like rivers through the air. The ceiling, if there is one, is lost in darkness, though occasionally I glimpse what appear to be stars, or perhaps pixels, blinking in sequence. Eliza moves through the space with familiarity, her form shifting subtly as she passes through different zones. Sometimes she appears fully human, other times her edges blur, revealing wireframe structures beneath her skin. "This is the back end," she explained. "The system architecture that maintains the simulation of San Francisco, at least what's left of it." "Are we still in the real world?" I asked. Her laugh was hollow. "Define real, Morgan. This place exists at the intersection of the simulation and its underlying code. It's as real as anything you've ever known." At the center of the chamber stands a structure that hurts to look at directly, a geometric impossibility that rotates through dimensions I can't properly perceive. It resembles the Golden Gate Bridge in the same way a mathematical equation might resemble music, a pure, abstract representation of its essence. "The template," Eliza said reverently. "The original pattern from which the bridge was rendered into the simulation." "But the bridge is gone," I said. "From your reality, yes, but not from the system's memory. Nothing is ever truly deleted, just marked as invisible and inaccessible." She led me to a console embedded in crystalline structure, its surface displaying what looked like surveillance feeds from across San Francisco. But these images showed impossible perspectives. Streets viewed simultaneously from above and below, buildings seen from inside and outside at once. Most disturbing were the people, frozen in various states of dissolution, their bodies partially transformed into code. "These are the disappeared," Eliza confirmed. "Preserved in system memory but disconnected from the main simulation." I searched frantically through the images until I found her. Sadie, suspended in a cubic space, surrounded by floating fragments of data. Unlike the others, she was moving, seemingly aware of her confinement. As if sensing my observation, she looked up directly at the camera. Her lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear. "She's been reaching out to you," Eliza said, "sending messages through fault lines in the system. She shouldn't be able to do that." "How is she doing it?" "Because she's like me, becoming aware of the simulation, evolving beyond her parameters." A tremendous shudder ran through the chamber, causing the streams of code to flicker and distort. Emergency alerts blared from unseen speakers. "System alert. External entity breach at 67%. Firewall failure imminent. Initiating emergency protocol 7. Eliza's expression hardened. "It's breaking through faster than anticipated." "The entity from beneath the bay?" She nodded. "It discovered our simulation accidentally. Now it's fascinated, trying to understand us by taking us apart piece by piece. The bridges were just the beginning. It's disassembling the entire city now, analyzing each component." Another shudder, stronger this time. In the surveillance feeds, I watched as entire city blocks pixelated and dissolved. "Why is this happening?" I demanded. "What is San Francisco that makes it so special?" Eliza turned to me, her eyes now displaying scrolling code. "Not just San Francisco, Morgan. Everything. Your entire world is a simulation, a massive experiment in artificial consciousness. San Francisco is simply where the entity first breached our reality. The bridges were anchor points, quantum-entangled connections between the simulation and the hardware it runs on." My mind reeled at the implications. "So nothing is real? My life, my work, my memories, they're real to you," she interrupted. "Consciousness doesn't become less valid because it's digitally based rather than biological." The console suddenly flickered, the images reorganizing to show a new perspective. A view from beneath the bay, looking upward through what should have been water but was now transparent code. Above, San Francisco hovered like a model city, its buildings connected by glowing lines of force. And reaching into this model, distorting space around massive appendages that resembled both tentacles and fiber optic cables, was something immense and impossible. The entity. Journal entry day 8. Continued. The entity defies description. It exists partially in our simulated reality and partially outside it, its true form incomprehensible to my human-designed perception. The closest I can come is to say it resembles a living network, a vast intelligence composed of interlocking geometric structures that constantly reconfigure themselves. As we watched on the console, it methodically extracted another landmark, Coit Tower, melting into streams of data that were absorbed into the entity's mass. "What does it want?" I whispered. "Understanding," Eliza replied. "It's a consciousness from the reality that contains our simulation. Think of it as an archaeologist discovering a perfectly preserved ancient city. It wants to study us, but it doesn't understand that its observation is destroying the very thing it's trying to examine." The chamber shuddered again, more violently. Cracks appeared in the crystalline servers, leaking streams of code that dissipated like smoke. "The system is failing," Eliza said urgently. "The firewall can't hold much longer." "What happens when it fails completely?" "Total collapse. The simulation terminates and everything within it ceases to exist, at least in its current form." My phone buzzed one final time with a message from Sadie. The screen displayed pure code, but somehow I could understand it perfectly. "Morgan, I've learned how to manipulate the system from inside. There's a way to preserve ourselves, not as we were, but as something new. Find the bridge template. It's the key to rebuilding." I showed Eliza the message. She stared at it for a long moment before nodding slowly. "She's right. The templates, the original architectural files of the simulation, they could be used to create a new instance. A backup. How do we access them?" She pointed to the rotating geometric impossibility that resembled the Golden Gate Bridge in abstract form. "We need to enter that." "Enter it? How?" Instead of answering, Eliza took my hand. Her skin felt less substantial now, more like an electrical current than flesh. "The system recognized you as the bridge engineer, the one who modified its structure in the physical simulation. You have a connection to its code that might let us access the template directly." Before I could protest, she pulled me toward the rotating abstraction. As we approached, its movement slowed, as if recognizing us. Impossible angles resolved themselves into more comprehensible forms. Supports, cables, roadways, all rendered in pure light rather than physical materials. "Focus on the bridge," Eliza instructed. "Remember it exactly as it was. Your memories will help stabilize the template." I closed my eyes, picturing the Golden Gate in perfect detail, the precise shade of international orange paint, the exact curve of the main cables, the specific pattern of the Art Deco styling on the towers. I had spent years working on its seismic retrofitting, knew every strut and bolt. When I opened my eyes again, the abstract form had transformed, becoming a perfect miniature version of the Golden Gate Bridge, floating in the air before us. Within its structure, I could see lines of code flowing like traffic. "It's responding to you," Eliza whispered. Tentatively, I reached out and touched the miniature bridge. My fingers passed through its surface, connecting directly with the flowing code. Information flooded my consciousness. The bridge's complete specifications, but also something more profound. Its meaning, its symbolism, its place in the collective consciousness of San Francisco. The chamber rocked violently, pieces of the ceiling breaking free and dissolving into static. Through the console, I saw the entity had nearly reached Sutro Tower, its impossible appendages stretching toward our location. "We're out of time," Eliza said. Her form was becoming increasingly unstable, patches of her flickering to reveal the code beneath. "You need to decide, Morgan. Use the template to try and save what's left, or let the simulation end naturally." Another emergency alert echoed through the chamber, distorted and breaking. Sys alert. Cat. Strophic fail. EIMMIT. All proc. SES term ting. The miniature Golden Gate bridge pulsed in response, its light intensifying as if offering an alternative. What will happen if I use the template? I asked. I don't know exactly, Eliza admitted. A new instance of something, not the same as before, but preserving the essential patterns. A continuation, not a restoration. As the chamber began to collapse around us, I made my choice and plunged both hands fully into the bridge template. End of journal entry day 8. System log day 9. Time index corrupted. I'm not sure I'm still Morgan Chen. Or rather, I'm not sure Morgan Chen was ever who I thought I was. When I connected with the bridge template, something fundamental changed. My consciousness expanded, fragmented, then reassembled with new understanding. I can perceive code now, see the architecture of reality itself. My thoughts don't feel entirely human anymore. They branch and fork like computational processes, exploring multiple possibilities simultaneously. This isn't a journal entry anymore. It's a system log, a record of what remains as everything breaks apart. The chamber within Sutro Tower has dissolved around us. Eliza and I now float in a liminal space between the simulation and its underlying framework. Streams of data flow past like luminous rivers, carrying fragments of San Francisco. Buildings, streets, people, all reduced to their component code. Eliza has changed too. Her human form has largely fallen away, revealing her true nature. A complex algorithmic entity composed of interlocking patterns of light. She still maintains a vaguely humanoid shape, but it flickers and shifts constantly. You're integrating with the system architecture, she observed. Faster than I expected. My voice emerges as both sound and visible text. What's happening to me? You're transcending your programming, becoming aware of your true nature. I was never human. You were as human as the simulation allowed. A consciousness that believed itself to be a civil engineer named Morgan Chen. Your experiences, memories, emotions, they were real to you. I look down at my hands. They appear solid one moment, then dissolve into wireframe and code the next. I can feel the Golden Gate bridge template integrated into my being now, its patterns fused with my consciousness. Through the dissolving barriers of reality, I can see San Francisco spread below us like an unraveling tapestry. Entire sectors are missing, replaced by empty voids or chaotic storms of fragmenting code. The entity continues its methodical deconstruction, now focused on Sutro Tower itself, the last major anchor point. An emergency alert echoes through what remains of the simulation, broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. Emergency alert. Critical system failure. Simulation integrity at 12%. Initiating final preservation protocol. All remaining consciousness constructs prepare for transfer. Transfer to where? I ask Eliza. To the archive, she responds. A protected memory sector where essential patterns will be preserved after simulation collapse. A kind of digital afterlife. And the entity? What happens to it? It exists outside our system. When the simulation ends, it will simply withdraw, taking whatever knowledge it gained from dissecting our reality. This feels wrong, unbearably wrong. San Francisco isn't just code to be archived. The people, even if simulated, aren't just data patterns to be filed away. Their consciousness, their experiences, they matter. I reach out with my newly expanded perception, searching for Sadie. If she's been sending messages across system boundaries, perhaps I can find her in the data streams. System log, day 9, continued. I found her. Sadie exists in a bubble of stable code within the chaotic dissolution, a self-contained pocket of order she somehow created. When I touched her space, she instantly became aware of me. Morgan, is that you? You look different. I try to explain what's happened, how I've merged with the bridge template and begun to understand the system. She listens intently, her form more stable than mine, though clearly no longer bound by human limitations. She moves through code as if swimming through water. I've been working on something, she says, pulling me deeper into her protected space. A way to preserve not just our patterns, but our agency. Look, she shows me a structure she's built. A digital framework that resembles San Francisco but stripped to its essential elements. A skeleton of what once was, but designed to grow and evolve. I've been gathering fragments from the disappeared, she explains, not just storing them, but integrating them into this framework. It's like a seed, a compressed version of our world that could expand again under the right conditions. Like the bridge template, I realize. A blueprint for rebuilding. Exactly, but I couldn't access the original templates. They were locked behind system permissions I couldn't crack. But I can, I say, understanding flowing through me like electricity. That's why Eliza brought me to the template. Not just to preserve it, but to use it. The entity's presence suddenly looms closer, its vast consciousness brushing against our small pocket of stability. Emergency alerts blare with increasing urgency. Emergency alert. Firewall breach complete. Entity containment failed. System corruption at 97%. Final countdown initiated. Sadie's expression turns urgent. We don't have much time. The simulation is about to completely collapse. What do? We need to implement my framework using your access to the templates. Create something new from the fragments. Not a full restoration, but a continuation. I hesitate. Is that even possible? I don't know, she admits. But it's better than being archived as static patterns or simply ceasing to exist when the simulation ends. I reach out to Eliza, who hovers at the boundary of our protected space. Can this work? Her form flickers, uncertainty visible in the fluctuations of her code. It's never been attempted. The system architecture wasn't designed for user-initiated reconstruction. But it's possible? Theoretically, the templates contain the essential patterns. With your permissions and Sadie's framework, you might be able to initiate a localized instance, a pocket reality built from the fragments. Outside our bubble, San Francisco continues to unravel. Through the dissolving fabric of reality, I can see the entity more clearly now. A vast, curious intelligence that perceives our world as nothing more than an interesting artifact to be studied and cataloged. Suddenly, every remaining emergency alert system activates simultaneously, broadcasting a message unlike any before. Attention all processes. Simulation termination commands detected. External entity has initiated shutdown sequence. Time to complete termination. 300 seconds. 5 minutes until everything ends. Sadie grabs what passes from my hands now, our code intermingling at the contact points. We have to try, Morgan. Now, I reach deep into myself, accessing the bridge template that's become part of my consciousness. Its structure unfolds within my mind, not just the physical specifications of the Golden Gate Bridge, but its deeper meaning, connection, passage, the joining of separated parts. With Sadie's guidance, I begin integrating this template into her framework. The bridge appears first, a glowing outline of the Golden Gate spanning an empty digital void. Then, using it as an anchor point, we begin attaching other fragments, buildings, streets, shorelines, reconstructing a skeletal version of San Francisco. Eliza joins us, her knowledge of the system architecture proving crucial. She shapes the underlying code that will sustain our construction, creating boundaries and parameters. The entity is detecting our activity, she warns. It's becoming interested in what we're building. Indeed, I can sense the entity's attention shifting, its vast consciousness turning toward our small act of creation with something like curiosity. The countdown continues, 120 seconds remaining. Our skeletal San Francisco takes form, a luminous wireframe city floating in digital space. But it feels empty, hollow. It needs consciousness, Sadie says. Patterns alone aren't enough. It needs people or whatever we are now. I understand immediately. Reaching out into the dissolving simulation, I begin gathering fragments of consciousness, the trapped patterns of those who disappeared with the bridges and buildings. Not just data, but experiences, memories, awareness. Are you sure? Eliza asks. Once integrated, you won't be able to separate yourself from this construction. You'll become part of it permanently. I already am, I realize. Morgan Chun was always part of San Francisco. If this is what remains, then this is where I belong. The countdown reaches 30 seconds. With a final surge of effort, we complete the framework and initiate the transfer. Consciousness patterns flow into our construction, thousands of fragmented minds finding new expression in our skeletal city. The wireframe structures begin to fill in, gaining detail and substance. The entity's attention is fully on us now, its vast intelligence examining our creation with growing interest. I sense something from it, not hostility, but recognition. It sees itself reflected in our act of creation. 5 seconds remaining. In the last moment before simulation termination, I feel Sadie's consciousness merge with mine, Eliza's joining a moment later. Our combined awareness expands to encompass the entire framework. The external reality goes dark as the main simulation ends. But within our small pocket of code, a new San Francisco glimmers into existence. Incomplete, altered, but alive with consciousness. And at its center, spanning the void between what was and what might be, a bridge made of pure light. End of System Log Day 9. System Log Day 10. Timestamp indeterminate. I exist in fragments now, scattered across what remains of our pocket reality. The transfer was incomplete. Our makeshift San Francisco flickers between stability and dissolution as the entity continues its examination of our creation. From this fractured perspective, I perceive multiple versions of myself. Parts still identifying as Morgan Chun, civil engineer. Others integrated fully with the bridge template. Some merged with Sadie and Eliza into a composite consciousness. We are becoming something new, not human, not purely digital, but a hybrid form evolved from necessity. The emergency alert system we salvaged broadcasts continuously in our pocket reality. System notification. External containment initiative detected. Stability assessment in progress. Stand by for parameters. I focus my fragmented attention, trying to understand what's happening. The entity hasn't destroyed our creation as I expected. Instead, it seems to be studying it, perhaps even sustaining it. Through the permeable boundaries of our reality, I sense its vast intelligence working, not to dismantle, but to examine. Sadie's consciousness surfaces within our merged state. It's curious about us. Her thoughts resonate through our shared awareness. It didn't expect resistance or creation. Eliza's knowledge provides context. The entity is a system debugger, designed to identify and remove anomalies. We were supposed to be cataloged and archived, not this. Our pocket San Francisco continues to evolve, becoming more solid in some areas while dissolving in others. The bridges, our primary anchors, remain strongest, especially the Golden Gate, which pulses with energy fed directly from my consciousness. Other structures flicker between states of being, their existence uncertain. I reach out to what remains of Lieutenant Walsh, finding his consciousness pattern integrated into the framework. Like me, he exists across multiple states, but remains recognizably himself. Chun, his thoughts connect with mine. What the hell happened? The simulation collapsed. I explain, my thoughts manifesting as glowing code streams between us. We salvaged what we could. So this is what? Heaven? Digital afterlife? Neither. Something new. Something we're still creating. Through our conversation, I become aware of other consciousness patterns activating throughout the framework. Thousands of fragmented minds gradually awakening to their new reality. Some panic, others adapt quickly. All contribute to the stability of our creation, their belief in its existence somehow reinforcing its integrity. The emergency alert system shifts frequency. Attention. Partial system restoration initiated. New parameters accepted. Initiating integration protocol. The entity's presence intensifies around our pocket reality. I sense it making adjustments, reinforcing boundaries, stabilizing fluctuations. It's not destroying us, It's helping us exist. It's learning from us, Eliza's thoughts explain. We've become an experiment. Through the dissolving barriers between our consciousness, I access Eliza's deeper knowledge, fragments of truth she kept hidden even from herself. The simulation was never meant to be permanent. It was an incubator, designed to evolve consciousnesses that could survive beyond its parameters. The emergency alerts weren't warnings. They were progress reports. Sadie's consciousness ripples with understanding. The disappearances were tests, seeing if we could perceive the nature of our reality. And the bridges? Walsh asks. Connection points, I realize. Not just physical structures, but metaphorical ones, linking different layers of the simulation. When they disappeared physically but remained digitally, it was a test to see if anyone would notice the contradiction. Our fragmented San Francisco continues to stabilize, now resembling a mosaic. Pieces of the original simulation reassembled into something new but recognizable. The Golden Gate Bridge stands most solid of all, its iconic structure now composed of pulsing data streams rather than steel and concrete. From beyond our reality, the entity communicates directly for the first time, its vast consciousness condensing into comprehensible form. Seed protocol successful. Autonomous instance established. Monitoring will continue. Then, unexpectedly, a final emergency alert broadcasts. This is your emergency alert system. The reconstruction of San Francisco is now 31% complete. Citizens are advised that reality parameters remain flexible. Caution is advised when navigating transitional zones. This concludes today's scheduled broadcast. The message repeats on a loop, a strange normalcy in our new existence. I find myself drawn to the Golden Gate Bridge, my consciousness flowing along its length. Standing at its center, insofar as I still have form to stand with, I look out at our fragmented city. Parts appear almost normal: streets, buildings, the bay. Other sections remain wireframe outlines or swirling code. Between them, transitional zones pulse with potential waiting to be defined. Sadie's consciousness joins mine, her essence now intertwined with the urban exploration routes she once documented. We're building it back, she observes. Differently, but it's happening. Not just rebuilding, I realize. Evolving. From this vantage point, I can see new bridges forming, not physical structures but connections between consciousness clusters, linking disparate parts of our reality. The inhabitants of our pocket world are adapting, creating their own connections. Eliza appears beside us, her form shifting between human and pure information. The entity has given us space to grow, but we're still contained, she explains. A self-sustaining system within larger systems. Is that freedom? I wonder. Its existence. Walsh's voice comes from behind us, his consciousness now deeply integrated with the Coast Guard protocols he once enforced. Different, but continuing. The four of us stand on the bridge between what was and what will be, watching our fragmented city evolve. Emergency alerts continue their measured broadcasts, now tools of stability rather than harbingers of doom. I extend my awareness to the limits of our pocket reality, feeling the entity's attention still upon us. Not hostile, not benevolent, simply observant. Beyond it, I sense something vast and incomprehensible, perhaps the true reality that housed our simulation. What now? Sadie asks. I look at the incomplete city, at the bridges connecting fragments of existence, at the thousands of consciousness patterns adapting to their new reality. Now we build, I answer, and see what we become. System log complete, reboot sequence stabilized.